Stanley, Scuba, Sailing, and Adventures. I appreciate you being here with me to log an entry in the travel journal. If this is your first time, please hit that subscribe button. Today we'll be diving Saba's Manowar dive site. Some lessons are learned the hard way. This dive site is one of the best dive sites here in Saba. It's called Manowar, and the dive just before this one was called Diamond Rock, the other premier dive site here in Saba. I had to abort the first dive. As soon as I got in, I realized that my Air 2 regulator on my BCD was leaking quite a bit of air. I knew that my kit had been overdue for servicing, not grossly overdue, maybe just a month or two, and I thought, I'll take it when I get back. What could possibly go wrong? I always have my kits serviced regularly. I usually don't go over, and in this instance, I just got busy with work. I knew I had the trip coming up, and I thought, I'll just push it out a couple weeks. Anyway, as I said, I had to abort that dive at Diamond Rock. I got in the water, and as soon as I got in, realized that Air 2 was leaking pretty badly. Now, my kit is pretty customized. I built it myself in terms of I ordered all the different parts and assembled it. I have 2 transmitters in the first stage. I have a low pressure hose for my second stage or regulator, and then my other low pressure hose goes to my BC and my Air 2. So I only have 2 hoses coming from the first stage. Since my problem was with my Air 2, I couldn't easily just swap into another BCD, and that being because that hose for the Air 2 is different than a regular BCD hose. And also, I didn't have an octo. I didn't want to switch out my entire rig because I have my 2 transmitters there and wireless air integration for my primary computer and then redundant computer. I realize that's a lot of information. I'm going to do a video on my kit and go through that setup so you can see it. I'm a visual learner. I think it'll be easier to understand that way. The point of the story being, it wasn't a quick and easy fix. I couldn't just swap out and rejoin the dive. I had to borrow a hose for the low pressure inflator for the BCD, and then I had to borrow and add an octo to my first stage. Luckily, the crew on the liveaboard boat was accommodating, and they let me borrow those parts from one of their existing rigs and move them to my first stage. They didn't necessarily want to put wrenches on my kit and do it for me, which is fine. I did it myself, and I was happy to, because as I said, I assembled all of this from scratch myself. I had it explained to me once that, well, if you were a Jedi, you would assemble or build your own lightsaber. That being said, I don't service my own kit. I probably could learn to, but for me, it's having another set of eyes, another person do that work, just to double check everything I've done. So, as you can imagine, the moral of the story is have your gear serviced on schedule, especially if you have a big trip like this, a week-long liveaboard. Don't put off getting your gear certified or serviced rather until you come back. And you might wonder, why am I admitting this? Why am I sharing this? Well, if you can learn from my misfortune, then I'd rather have you learn from it than have to learn the hard way yourself. As a result, additionally, during this dive, which again is part 2 of the 2 premier dive sites for this location, I felt out of sorts during the whole dive. I don't feel this was my best video work. The reason being, I had a different BCD on. It feels different. I'd been diving my same BCD for probably 7 years, so just that little change in the gear setup really threw me off. This experience also reinforced for me things I'd read in the past about you don't want to be the guy on the dive boat with all brand new gear that's never had his gear in the water, because again, there's always going to be something to sort out, or at the very least a learning curve, right? And you don't want to mess up other folks' dive. I managed to get through this dive. I was just a little uncomfortable, and wow, to say that I got through the dive. You don't want to ever just get through a dive. I enjoyed the dive. It was great, but I was consistently uncomfortable throughout this dive. And again, just from the change in gear, having that different BCD. This is dive number 15 in this 19-part dive series. All of the videos were recorded during a week-long liveaboard, cruising and diving from St. Kitts, cruising and diving in Saba, and then ending in St. Martin. This is a spectacular dive site, and someday I hope to make my way back to Saba and to get to dive this Man of War site again, and also to dive that Diamond Rock dive site. This is day 5 and our last full day of diving. The dive started at 10:42 in the morning and lasted just about 42 minutes. I recorded an average depth of 48 feet and a maximum depth of 72 feet. My dive computer reported an average water temperature of 82 degrees Fahrenheit.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.